Hello everyone, back with center pattern number 5, liquidating the center. So what's this pattern all about? Well, you have this pawn structure e4, d4, c3 against this pawn structure e5, e5, d6 and c5. So the point here is that you're going to liquidate the center as black takes, and of course the pawn isn't lost for white after e takes d4. Usually there's a knight that can recapture a pawn or sometimes a queen, but the point here isn't to look at what piece can recapture on d4 or anything like that. We're just interested in the overall pawn structure and what that means. Usually what happens here after this liquidation attempt by black is that the c file will be open and there will be a semi-open e file for black to work with, and that usually means a good position for black. But of course there's also the positional consideration that after you're taking all of these, you're left saddled with a weak d6 pawn. So this pattern is very context dependent, and in some cases it's good, in some cases it's bad. And I know this might be a bit too abstract now, so you'll know what I'm talking about in the next section, which is how the pattern plays out section. For now, we'll take a look at the one thing to remember section, which is again that you have to remember that the C and E files are very important for this pattern to be good for black. And now for how the pattern plays out, finally you'll understand what I'm talking about. So C takes, and E takes. And again, usually there's something that will recapture on D4, a piece that will recapture on D4, but we're not concerned with that for this pattern. Of course, this pawn isn't just an extra black pawn. So what would be left here is this E4 versus D6 kind of structure. And again, that structure has a lot to do with how weak, like the D6 pawn could be very weak. Again, just let me put the arrows. So the D6 pawn will be very weak, and the D6 pawn will be very weak because of course you have this open D file for white, but at the same time, if you have a good open C file for black and a good open semi-open E file for black, you'll be quite alright as black. So let's take a look at a sample game. So we have Carlsen playing against Anand, and this is a very famous game in which Anand won against Carlsen in this Ruy Lopez. So by the way guys, of course I again forgot to mention this in the introduction, this kind of pawn structure occurs very frequently in the Ruy Lopez, and yeah, it's very important to remember that. And here comes the liquidation. So the reason Anand liquidated here will be revealed. The point here is that he has d5, where he opens up the position for his pieces, and it turns out it's a fantastic move. And again, this was a perfect game played by Anand, basically, or near perfect game. There weren't any major blunders or anything like that. I'm sorry, I'm going a bit too quickly. Let me go a bit more slowly. So black gets a lot of activity for their sacrificed pawn, and you know, it seems like white is holding, but they get these double pawns and, well, aren't holding. They try some trickery with the B pawn, but it proves to be not enough, and Anand is able to defend quite well here, and the position is just lost for Carlsen. Okay, and for our test. So for our test here, what would you play as black? And yeah, of course, this is a Ruy Lopez structure. So what would you play as black? Would you consider what we learned about today with C takes d4, or would you play something else? Is this a trick of mine? Please think about it, pause the video, and the answer will be revealed shortly. So the answer is that of course you do it. No reason not to. C takes, knight takes, and now it seems like the d6 pawn is weak and your e4 pawn is well protected and all of that. But after castles, rook e1, further protecting e4, and rook e8, then will come rook c8, and black is doing splendidly. Their rooks are very active. They have also some active bishops in the future, or even now, and yeah, it's working quite well for black. So remember, in this pattern, you need to have your rooks active if you want to liquidate, because the d6 pawn in some cases could be weak, so you need to be aware of that. Alright, with that, thanks for watching guys, and take care.